Welcome back to Washington Watch. My name is Joseph Backholm, sitting in for Tony today. And today marks the first anniversary of George Floyd's death. And while the milestone has prompted further calls for police reform, some are saying that not enough is being done regarding crime in America. In fact, the anti-police sentiment that we've seen over the past year has resulted, perhaps, in increased crime. Are there bigger problems that people in America are overlooking right now? With me now to talk about this and more is Bishop E.W. Jackson, Senior President and Founder of S.T.A.N.D Foundation. Bishop Jackson, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we are glad to have you, and this is a significant day in light of the national conversation over race that has been going, certainly not for the last year, but for the last couple of 100 years. But tell me, as you reflect on the events of the last year, what have you learned?
Well, what I've learned is that there is an effort in our country to use race as a tool of manipulation and indoctrination rather than illumination, frankly, of the issue, because I really believe that America is a wonderful place to live. Are we a perfect country? No. But we are doing a study right now. My organization is on the deaths of children around America. We are up to 85 dead children slain in inner cities across the country since the beginning of 2020. And you know what? No days to celebrate their deaths. There are no parades, no protests. Their pictures aren't being put up. And yet we've decided that we're going to turn a man, and he shouldn't have died. It was tragic. It was horrible. I think every American who's rational agrees with that. But the man was a fentanyl addict. He was a meth addict. He was passing counterfeit bills. And while we certainly mourn his death and we believe that Chauvin got justice, he is not a civil rights icon. And it's just sad that that's the way this is now being used. And if you don't go along with that somehow, you're not woke. You don't quite understand the struggle. I understand innocent people are dying across this country who have done nothing except be in the wrong place at the wrong time when gunfire erupts among these gangs, and we don't pay any attention to their deaths whatsoever. And I think that's because this is not about saving Black lives. It is about advancing a Marxist agenda.
Now, specifically with respect to George Floyd, we all watched the conviction that Derek Chauvin got. Do you think that has helped to create a sense of closure, justice in this case that will help this issue broadly moving forward? No, because that's if the point really were justice for George Floyd and his family, I think they got $27 million, $27 million. Derek Chauvin was convicted. If the point was really justice for them, you could say, well, you know, we did the best we could to satisfy the demands of justice. But that's not really what the issue is. Now, maybe for his family it is, but I think for Black Lives Matter and other radicals who are pushing this, the issue is really, and they immediately said it as soon as Chauvin was convicted, well, this doesn't bring closure because it won't be closure until we get rid of systemic racism and blah, 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 blah. So what they were saying is, no, that this doesn't satisfy anything. Just like electing the first Black president didn't change anything, because here again, the issue is to fundamentally change America, not to simply improve, or as the preamble says, not to simply make us a more perfect union, but frankly, to create disunion so that you can remake it with some sort of socialist, totalitarian state of some kind that I think they really love to have, where your First Amendment rights are curtailed, your Second Amendment rights are curtailed, and basically the government controls everything and everybody. And therein lies the real issue, not the death of George Floyd, which every American, I think, pretty much agrees should not have happened. I certainly everyone agrees with you. The last point that the death of George Floyd should not have happened. But those who are watching the response and the larger conversation about race, who are concerned, who think, well, we're not perfect, but we're not terrible, and we don't want to tear this whole thing down. What do you think is the correct way for people to respond to this? Who might want to say, you know, it's not an entirely racist country. We shouldn't necessarily eliminate the police, but I'm not a racist and I don't want to be accused of being a racist. How should people respond to this conversation and these news stories?
I think you got to get to the underlying issue. Look, I'm an American of African ancestry. My ancestors were slaves and sharecroppers in Orange County, Virginia. I love this country. I'm proud of my country. I know it's not a perfect place, but I also know the world is not a perfect place. And America was born into a sinful and fallen world. But I think we've done more than any other nation that's ever existed to advance the cause of liberty and liberty and opportunity, and to raise the standard of living for anybody who is willing to take advantage of the opportunities this country offers. I think we've got to call this out for what it is. I think underlying it is a Marxist worldview that has substituted racial conflict for class warfare. And no matter what you do, see, that's the problem. No matter what we do as a country, those who are interested in fundamentally transforming the nation will never be satisfied. So I think we've got to call that out and say, yes, we want to be a fair country for every single American, but we're not going to become a socialist country. That's not the answer, and that's what this stuff is pushing, and that's what I agree with. Not the call for justice. I don't disagree with the call for justice. I disagree with the call to make us a collectivist, socialist nation of some kind.
Bishop Jackson, appreciate you very much taking the time to join us. You are a fair man in a fair country. Appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, sir.